I'm very bossy today. Very bossy. Are you allowed to be bossy in your house? No. So it's kind of odd that we have a day when we're hearing Jesus being very bossy. And if you think about it, we got to put it in context, because last week we heard that Jesus had gone in the boat by himself to be alone, and he went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and when he got there were more crowds. So he had taught, he had time alone on the Sea of Galilee, and then when he got out, he had to have compassion on the crowds, and then he fed them. So we heard about the feeding of the 5,000. So now imagine, feeding 5,000 by hand. There are no pre-boxed meals to just hand out or for people to come and get. So I'm thinking, 2 hours at least, even though we had 12 helpers, to get all the bread out there to feed everybody. And then once everybody had eaten, they collected the 12 baskets. And so now we are coming to our passage today. So he's had a very long, maybe 36 hours. And so maybe it's 8 or 9 at night, somewhere around then. And he makes the crowds leave. He says, come on, we're done, go. He dismisses the crowds, it says. He's saying, we're done. You've been taught, you've been healed, you've been fed, go home. The doors are closed, we're closing up for the night. And then for the disciples, it says, our first line, Jesus made the disciples. He commanded them. He didn't have any room for discussion. Do it. Get in the boat and go. Jesus, maybe his human side is going, I need time all by myself. Okay? The introverts in here know what that feels like. Okay? You need time alone. And so he makes them go in the boat, and then he has dismissed the crowds, and so now he gets time alone again, this time on the mountain. Okay? So before this scene, it was on the ocean, or not the ocean, but the Sea of Galilee, and now it is on the mountain overlooking the Sea of Galilee, and he gets that time alone. So now we hear about the disciples. They're in their boat. Some of them are fishermen. They're very used to being in boats. They're very used to the storms that come up on the Sea of Galilee, being in the boat. And if you look closely at the text, in this passage, it does not say that the disciples are scared or worried for their lives by the storm. There is a story where that happens, but Jesus is already in the boat. He's just asleep. In this one, the disciples are in the boat without Jesus, and the wind is battering the boat, but we don't hear that the disciples are nervous or scared. What scares them is what I suppose would scare any one of us, is seeing somebody walking on the water, which we all know is not a possibility, and therefore they're like, it's got to be a ghost. And if it's coming towards us, that's probably not a good thing. And so they're scared because of what they see walking on the water, not because of the wind. And that's important. We're going to come back to that. Okay? So we've set the scene a little bit, and now I'm going to take you to the movie Sing. How many of you have seen the movie Sing? Have y'all seen the movie Sing? No? Maybe you have? Okay. So there are a lot of little stories in there for those of you who haven't seen it. But one of my favorites is the elephant. Because at the beginning of the movie, you hear her beautiful voice singing happy birthday to her grandfather in their home. Her dream is to sing in front of crowds, but she is so scared she cannot do it. Her fear prevents her. Her fear is giving her a sense of failure because she can't do or use the gift she has clearly been given. Not until the very end, when when she overcomes her fear and is able to sing in front of the crowds. But what's happening today in our gospel is not that kind of fear. Okay? The fear that we hear about with Peter is not that kind of fear. So Peter, hears Jesus say, I'm not a ghost. It's I. It's your Lord. And Jesus says, well, being impetuous the way he is, speaking before he thinks, he's like, well, if it's you, command me to come on the water. I kind of think Peter in his head is going, he's been bossy all day. Okay, so command me to come on the water. He doesn't say, well, Jesus, can you ask me to come to you on the water? Can I walk to you on the water? He tells Jesus what he wants. Command me to walk on the water. Because I think Peter knows that if Jesus commands him, that he'll be able to do it. And so Jesus just says, come. And Peter gets out of the boat. And you know what? He gets 2 or 3 steps into the water. So that miracle has happened. He's not scared yet. He's watching Jesus and he's walking on the water. Imagine the disciples in the boat going, oh my goodness, this is awesome. And Peter, maybe hearing whatever their comments are, takes his eyes off Jesus, notices the wind around him, the storm around him, and only then is he scared. So think about the movie The Pursuit of Happiness, which is mostly a biographical movie about Chris Gardner. It's a true story about a man who is very bright, very smart, and he is struggling to care for his young son and find a job to take care of them both. And he takes that leap of faith. He's dressed in a suit. He's been doing job interviews, and he hasn't been able to find a job. And there's a point at which he finds himself barricaded in a men's bathroom in a subway, I think, to keep himself and his son safe. And he collapses at the far end of the bathroom, holding his son, crying. And you can just see on his face the fear of, oh my God, what have I done? Am I going to make it? Is this going to work? So some of us have had those times where we've made that leap of faith, trying at something completely new. Things get really hard or challenging or difficult, and we're not sure if it's going to work, and we get scared. That is where Peter is right now. It's not the fear of trying. It's the fear that happens when you're in the middle of doing something new and you all of a sudden realize, wait a minute, am I really doing this? Can I keep doing it? Is it going to work? That's where Peter is. We're hard on Peter a lot of times. But remember that Peter actually got out of the boat and walked. And yes, he took his eyes off Jesus and noticed the storm around him. But he then did the next thing that we are called to do, which is to ask for help when we need it. And he said, Jesus, help me, I'm sinking. Now I have to believe as a fisherman, Peter knew how to swim. So I go back to Peter all of a sudden realizing, oh my God, I'm walking on water. I shouldn't be able to walk on water. And so that little bit of doubt makes the situation more difficult for him. And he starts to sink. But as soon as he asks for help, Jesus reaches out his hand and lifts him up, and they get into the boat. Peter didn't just try, he did. He accomplished what he asked Jesus to allow him to do. And I have to believe that Jesus was intentional in that. Jesus didn't have to say, come. Jesus could have said, you know what, I've had a long day. Let's just get in the boat and move on. I mean, some of us have done that sometimes to our kids or our spouse. I've had a big day. Been a long couple of days. Let's just go to shore, please. But Jesus doesn't do that. He knows that for as much as Peter speaks first, Peter is giving his all. And Jesus is respecting that. Jesus is encouraging it even. Jesus is giving Peter what Peter needs for his faith journey. And I believe that faith, even though there was some doubt, will be a part of what holds Peter strong after Jesus has died and risen from the dead, and the disciples, who are then the apostles, are on their own. Peter can look back and go, you know what I can do? I just call on Jesus. He will give me what I need. And when I stumble or fall or doubt and I call back out, Jesus will be there to answer me again. We're at the start of school, start of a new year for teachers, for students. We are going to have times where we are all gung-ho about trying a new lesson plan or getting involved in a new subject, and we're going to get in the middle of it and wonder if we really know what we're doing. Those are the times when our story today can remind us to not just call on Jesus to give us the strength to do something, but to call on Jesus to give us the strength to continue on, to continue trusting, or when we ask for help, to accept that new direction that comes with the help Jesus gives. Fear comes in many forms. It can prevent us from doing things, but sometimes it can get in the way of us continuing on. No matter what fear we face, looking to Jesus for guidance and direction and help to fix it, to get through it, is what we are called to do. And I pray that all of us have the strength to do that, no matter what we are trying to do in our life each day. Amen.
Amen.